I grew up in Texas, and you've heard the saying, everything's bigger in, including high school football. So from the time I was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, I look forward to playing high school football, Friday night lights, all of those things. And I was so incredibly excited for that day. Finally, I was a freshman in high school. I could hardly wait. I had my helmet, my jersey, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. So it finally came. We pulled up, it was an away game, so the bus, we pulled up to the school we were going to play. And I was starting offense. I actually played on the offensive line because I ran the 40-yard dash in 10-point, we hope he finishes. And so I was starting offense, and we broke the huddle on that first play. I went running, kind of jogging, up to the line of scrimmage. I got down in my three-point stance. I was so excited. I thought, this is the coolest thing. I look so cool. This is going to be so cool. Until I made a drastic mistake. I made eye contact with the monstrosity I was supposed to block on the other side of the ball. He looked at me, and he met my eye, and he goes, "Number 54, you're dead meat." The ball got snapped, and I just froze, and Mr. Dead Meat went running right on by me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do something different next time. So we went to the huddle, and I thought, okay, we can do it. And I went back to the line of scrimmage. I thought, this time, I'm not going to make eye contact with Mr. Dead Meat. So I get down to my three-point stance. I thought, all right, it's going to be different this time. And even though I didn't make eye contact with him, I still heard the voice. "Number 54, you're dead meat." The ball is snapped, and again I went, whoops. And Mr. Dead Meat, who I think had grown 7 inches from the first play, he went and hit my quarterback, which I quickly found out that's not good for your relationship with your quarterback when you let that happen. But that was okay. So we went back to the huddle. We walked over to the huddle. And the whole time, I don't know what play was being called. I was thinking about my parents' medical insurance and how good it may or may not have been. And again, I sauntered up. I slowly walked up to the line of scrimmage. Even though I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, you are with me. That whole thing. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what play was called. I don't know what exactly happened. All I know is I closed my eyes. I did something. And Mr. Dead Meat did not say anything to me the rest of the football game. I still, to this day, don't know what happened. I think I did my job. I think. I'm not sure. But, as I've heard that voice again and again in my life, "Number 54, you're dead meat." I think about the first time I held my little son, hearing that voice. "Joel, who do you think you are, being a dad?" I've heard that voice again and again and again. "Joel, you're not enough. Joel, why do you think you can tell someone else about Jesus? You don't have all the answers. You're a mess up. Joel, you're underqualified." Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt like fear has held you back from something? Fear has held you back from following God in faith. Maybe it's held you back from giving your life to Jesus for the very first time. Maybe you feel like you're a fake and you are this close from being found out. Man, whatever you are, over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the truth that fearless families choose faith over fear. I want to hear your voices. Will you say that with me? Fearless families choose faith over fear. But Joel, that's a nice thing to put on a poster on your office, but what exactly does that mean? How do we live that out? How do we walk that out? And also, I read that and I think, man, that's a lot of pressure. What do I do? How do I do that? How do I choose faith over fear? Well, every month here at Alive, we have a series memory verse. Series lasts about 4 or 5 weeks. And our series memory verse is from the book of Deuteronomy in the Bible, chapter 11, verse 18. "So commit yourselves," what's this word? Wholeheartedly to these words of mine. What do you think that means? I've been digging into it. And it means living out God's truth, making God's truth a constant presence in your life. Knowing that whatever you're facing, whatever's on that other side of the line of scrimmage, knowing that God's truth is truth and making it a constant presence in your life. So for the next few minutes, we're going to be living in Joshua chapter 2 in your Bible. I invite you to turn there in your Life Transformation Bible or in your phone, YouVersion or whatever. And if you don't have a Bible, we have Bibles in the Welcome Center after. Bypass the ice cream truck because the Bible's center is going to be more important. And there's free Bibles there, and it actually has a discipleship class, a discipleship plan. The front 100 pages or so, 52-week discipleship plan that you can dig into and get to know what God's truth is. And it helps you live it out, walk it out. It's a great discipleship plan to do by yourself, with your family, in a group of people. And so I invite you to go by and grab that. So what I want to do is summarize the entire Bible up until Joshua chapter 2 in 2 minutes. You think I can do it? We'll see. Set your watches, 2 minutes. In Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And God said it was good. God made Gila monsters and cactus and everything you see. And it was good until Adam and Eve, the first people, mankind, they took their eyes off of God, put it on themselves, took their faith off of God and ate the forbidden fruit. So God came to them and said, Adam and Eve, because you sinned, you now have a sin debt that is separating you from me. In fact, in Genesis 3, verse 15, God talked to the snake, the serpent that tempted Adam and Eve, and said, look, I'm going to send my chosen one who is going to come to earth, and you will bruise his heel, but he's going to crush your head. And then fast forward now, 2,000 years into the future, God appeared to a man named Abraham. And God made a promise to Abraham. Actually, a number of promises. Another word is covenant with Abraham. A couple of things that God said was, he said, Abraham, you're going to be a mighty nation. Number 2, Abraham, I have a chosen land, a promised land I want to give you. And then God did something amazing. He did something to symbolize that if God fell short and broke the agreement, God would pay the price. And if mankind, if us, broke the agreement, God would pay the price. Fast forward now 500 years into the Bible, the book of Exodus. God's people, the people of Abraham, his descendants, they are enslaved in Egypt. And because they're enslaved in Egypt, they are being oppressed. Well, God raises up a leader named Moses, and he ends up leading them to freedom. God parts the Red Sea, and everything is great until all of a sudden God's people take their faith off of God, off the true God, and put it on everything else but God. And so then it's not going well for them. They begin to wander, living a nomadic lifestyle in the desert for 40 years after that. Until God raises up a new leader named Joshua, and that's where we are. Joshua chapter 2, this new leader goes to God, and God says, now I'm going to deliver you into the promised land. So they march up to this place called Jericho, and God says, I'm going to give you that land. Well, Jericho is an impressive city with massive, high walls, and God says, yeah, that's going to be your promised land. You are going to go and inhabit that. So Joshua 2, verse 1, I invite you to read along with me. It says, then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp at Acacia Grove, and he instructed them. He said, scout out the land on the other side of the Jordan River, especially Jericho. So the 2 men set out and came to the house of a prostitute now named Rahab. Now we're going to push pause on the story right there. Okay? Here at Alive, we teach with one voice, which means your kids, your grandkids, anybody you know over there in the kids' birth through 5th, 6th grade, we teach the same thing, age appropriate. We teach the same biblical truth. We teach the same Bible story. Unless you think, oh my goodness, what kind of crazy conversation am I going to have with my 3rd grader about what Rahab did for a living? Don't worry, I asked our kids group, our kids director, Christy, I said, so how do you teach this? What are you going to tell them about Rahab? And her answer was amazing. She said, we're going to teach that Rahab got her identity from everything apart from God. Rahab lived in a city that did not fear God. They worshiped false gods. Rahab had her identity in things that caused her brokenness and pain. And Rahab lived a life that was a mess. And I think that's so true. We get hung up so much with this story. If you've been in church for a while, you may have heard this story before. And we get hung up on what she did for a living. But the truth is, she lived a life that was apart from God's plan for her. She lived a life that was a mess. And you know what? I connect with that because my life is a mess. Apart from Jesus, it would be a huge mess. But yet, when we come to the cross, our identity is not our mess. Our identity is Jesus Christ. So the story goes on. These two spies in Joshua chapter 2, they weren't very good spies because the king of Jericho knew they were there real fast. And so he sends his guards and he's like, knock on her door. We think that she's hiding them. So they go, they knock on her door. And Rahab's like, yeah, they were here, but they went that way. Now remember, Rahab has not given her life to God at this point because there's so much. It's like, wait, she lied. Rahab has not given her life to God at this point. She is still living in struggle, in mess, in fear. And so all the king's horses and all the king's men go looking for these two spies. And thankfully they don't find them because Rahab had hidden them up in her roof. So verse 9, she actually goes and she has a conversation with these spies. She says, I know the Lord has given you this land. We are all afraid of you. In fact, everyone in the land is living in terror. I just want to stop here for a second. Rahab, again, in her brokenness, living in this pagan city. A lot of biblical scholars actually believe Rahab, she was named for the false god Ra. So her namesake is even this false god. She's struggling with fear. She's hearing the story about these people who are coming with this God who is paving the way for them. And she's struggling. And I really believe that Rahab had a lot of fears in her life, in her mess, in her brokenness. So much to be afraid of. And I think about my life. And probably some of you here or watching online where you have fear and struggling and mess and brokenness. And sometimes that wants to prevent us from walking in faith, from living, from trusting God to do what he says he will do. And maybe you can relate to that. But the truth is that fearless families choose faith over fear. Fearless families choose faith over fear. But how do we do that? I like to get real practical. That's me. I can read this and I think, yes, I want to do it. But where do I start? Well, the starting point is to know that God is bigger. Have faith that God is bigger than your fear. God is bigger than your fear. Whatever it is you're afraid of, you need to know that it is more scared of God than you are of it. As you walk up to the proverbial line of scrimmage and look across to Mr. Dead Meat, who's 8 feet tall, and he's like, you're dead meat. You need to know that it is more afraid of God than you are of it. Whatever that is, living in faith, living in generosity, sharing your faith with someone. Maybe you have a health concern and you're like, you know what, I'm just so afraid of what's going to happen. But knowing that it is more scared of God than you are of it. Have faith that God is bigger than your fear. Verse 11, she says, and this is my favorite verse of the whole account, for the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. At this point, Rahab, the pagan prostitute, named for the false god, she confesses with her mouth that God is the one true God. See, this is her conversion moment. In fact, she is the first Gentile to convert to Judaism, the first Gentile to give her life to the one true God. And here it is, this woman, living a lifestyle far away from God's plan for her. But yet she says, you know what? I recognize that your God is the supreme God. She actually is taking her life in her own hands because you remember, the king's horses and the king's men came knocking on her door and they're like, hey, turn over those spies to us. And she deliberately disobeyed them. She did not have fear in what her king was going to do to her. She had more fear in God and wanting to follow him. See, it's not about living in fear and being paralyzed with fear. It's about living in faith. It starts with choosing to trust and then following it up by action. So fearless families choose faith over fear. Have faith that God is bigger than your fear. Then take bold, faith-filled actions. And you see Rahab here in Joshua chapter 2, taking bold, faith-filled actions. She acted when she hid the spies. She didn't just say, hey, here they are. Because you know what? I wouldn't have blamed her. If Rahab would have been like, you know what? These spies are here. They're from the enemy. I know that they probably want to do all kinds of crazy stuff to us. Here they are. There they are. Just go take them. Do whatever you want. But yet, she didn't. She took a bold, faith-filled action. See what she does in verse number 12. And then she goes to the spies, and she says, here, swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to me and my family. Pretty bold request. But I mean, she just hit him, so I guess that's the time to make your bold request and say, look, I want you to promise me, actually swear to me by the Lord that you're going to be kind. You're going to save me and my family. And here I think about the spies at this point. You see, they thought they were on a spy mission, but really, God sent them on a rescue mission. God looking down saying, you know what? My girl, Rahab, she is seeking. Go get her. And they thought they were just there to take notes. Okay, the wall is this high, there's this. No, God sent them on a rescue mission. And if you're here and you have a relationship with Jesus, at one point God was on a rescue mission to get you too. And if you're here and you have never given your life to Jesus, first of all, thank you. Thank you for being here. But I want you to know, if you've never given your life to Jesus, God is on a rescue mission for you and for your heart. He's not going to force his way into your heart. He's not going to kick down the door, but he's pursuing you, saying, I love you. I want a relationship with you. And all we have to do is open our heart, invite him in, like Rahab, to confess with your mouth that God is the supreme God and that Jesus wants relationship with you. We just celebrated, I just can't get over baptism. What a celebration that was. So this weekend, you saw we had 6 just a minute ago. Over the last week, so from Monday all the way through tomorrow, we have baptized or will baptize, I want to say 14 people. Yeah, you can clap for that. But I love baptism for so many reasons. It's following God. It is saying, you know what? I am being transformed. It's walking in obedience. And you know what? It is a bold faith step. So my hat's off to you guys who got baptized in the room. And that is a bold faith step. To stand up here and declare, you know what? I confess Jesus. I am all in for him. I want to follow him wholeheartedly. And there's a lot that comes with that. That can be scary stuff. See, I didn't want to say this till after you all were baptized, but it can be scary stuff. I get it when I was baptized. That's a whole other story for a whole different day. But it was scary stuff. But it's a faith-filled action, and God honors that, saying, you know what? I have been transformed, and I want the world to know I've been transformed. Fearless families choose faith over fear. Will you say that with me one more time? Fearless families choose faith over fear. So we need to have faith that God is bigger than your fear. Then we need to take bold, faith-filled actions. And number 3, focus on a legacy that outlasts your circumstances. What legacy are you building? You may be sitting here and you are building on a legacy of maybe following God, building on a legacy of good habits. Or you may be here and you just wish you could escape your legacy that you come from. I don't know your story. I know some of your stories, but I know all your stories. And wherever you fall in that or anywhere in between, you know that you can spark change as you live in transformation. You can touch those around you. I should back up. When you live in transformation, you will touch those around you, those who come after you, those that you have influence over, and you're able to influence them for good. We want to live in transformation. Check out what Rahab did in verse number 18. She says, remember me and my family. And then the spies answer her. They say, when we come into the land, you must leave the scarlet rope hanging from the window through which you let us down. And all your family members must be inside the house. I so appreciate that those spies didn't say, if your family members are related to you, they're automatically saved. They didn't say that. They said, because you took a bold action, your family members will be saved if they're willing to take that step of faith. Come into your house and receive salvation. Joshua 2:18. They will be saved if they're willing to be inside the house. See, I think about Rahab and her mess, her brokenness, and because of her family, spoiler alert, her family was saved. In whatever mess you're in, whatever mess you've come from, whatever your legacy that you come from, the hurt, the mess, know that you are not beyond God's love. He is pursuing you. He has pursued you. He is pursuing you. And he wants to save you and your family. Rahab actually shows up multiple times throughout the New Testament. Hebrews chapter 11, it was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed. See, you think about it at the very beginning. I read Joshua 2 verse 1, and it said Rahab the prostitute. You see, her identity was this woman living in this mess, this woman who has chosen this occupation apart from God's plan for her, this woman named for this false god, her brokenness, that was her identity. And you see in Hebrews chapter 11, yes, it identifies what she did to let you know who she was, but what is her identity? Her identity is faith. Her identity is not brokenness. Hebrews chapter 11 doesn't say, yeah, Rahab had faith, but man, she was a mess. She was broken. No, it was Rahab had faith. And because she had faith, God saved her. Think about that. Your identity changes when you give your life to Jesus. The mess is not your identity. Jesus becomes your identity. Then my favorite part, she shows up in the New Testament, giving you some context. Back in early days and Bible days, they didn't use Ancestry.com or 23andMe or anything like that. They kept meticulous records on their genealogy. So check this out. The New Testament, Matthew chapter 1, starts with this long list of people. And it's going somewhere, I promise. Verse 5 says, Salmon was the father of Boaz. But whose mother was the mother of Boaz? Rahab. Rahab, the mess, the woman that lived in Jericho, the woman who did not call on the name of God until she was an adult, the woman who chose the profession apart from God's plan for her. And yet, here she is showing up to kick off the New Testament. I'll let you know if you read a little further in Matthew chapter 1, she's actually the great-great-grandmother of a guy named David. David of David and Goliath fame, David who goes on to become king. And then you see it go on and on and on. Lists name after name. Some names you maybe have heard of if you've read the Bible a lot or been in church a lot. Some names you probably haven't. But then there's a name of a guy named Joseph. Joseph marries a woman named Mary. Joseph becomes the earthly father of Jesus Christ. Her name's there because she chose faith. She didn't say, you know what, I am so afraid, I am so fearful, I'm just going to let the boogeyman run on by me, kind of like I did when Mr. Dead Meat was talking smack to me. She didn't say, you know what, I'm going to turn these guys over to the king and all the guards that want to take these spies. No, she stepped out in faith. Then she called on the name of the true God, and she was saved. Another thing that I think is so amazing, when you call upon the name of the Lord, when you have a relationship with Jesus, you are adopted into God's family. So just like Rahab is in God's family, she's actually in the lineage of Jesus. When you have a relationship with God through the blood of Jesus, you are adopted into God's family. And so imagine your name there, where it doesn't say, man, so-and-so, and his identity is hot mess, or her identity is she's a mess. It is someone, adopted family of Jesus, as we exchange that identity. So remember that red cord. I kind of went quickly through it. But the spy said, hey, let us out through your window with a red cord, and then leave that red cord there, and we will know that that's the house that we're not going to destroy. That'll save you. Well, okay, remember back when I was doing my 2-minute summary of the entire Old Testament, which was so much fun? So the night before, God delivered Moses and his children out of Egypt. He said, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to send a plague, the 10th plague, on the people of Israel. I'm going to send my angel of death to come and take the lives of all the firstborn children. The way to be saved from that is to take the blood of a lamb, put it on your doorway. And then when my angel comes, he will see the blood on the doorway, and he will pass over your house and go on to the next one. That day, that was called Passover. That was a symbol of what was to come. This red cord, the salvation that Rahab and her family experienced, is a symbol of what was to come. It was a symbol of Rahab's great, and lots of greats, grandsons, Jesus, as he hung on the cross. For Rahab and for you, whatever you've done, whatever your mess is, Jesus' blood that was spilled, his red blood that was spilled, makes us have right relationship with God if we're willing to trust in Jesus. Then Jesus, of course, didn't stay on that cross. He didn't stay in that tomb. Jesus rose again, and he is alive, and he is pursuing you if you don't have a relationship with him. So where are you at? Where are you at? Fearless families choose faith over fear. Have faith that God is bigger than your fear. Take bold, faith-filled actions. Then third, focus on a legacy that outlasts your circumstances. I'll let you know the rest of the story. So Rahab did. She walked in obedience. She got her family into her house. It is an amazing story. Read it in the book of Joshua 4, 5, 6, 7. And God ends up making the walls come tumbling down. And the only building, the only structure that survives that massive miracle that God did was Rahab's house. And her family and they were all saved because they were willing to step out in faith. They didn't choose fear, but they chose faith. When you live in faith, you will experience transformation in your life. What does that look like? You know what? I've seen that in my own life, and I've seen God work in my own life when I've gone to God and said, you know what, God, I need you to transform my marriage. I need you to transform the lives of my kids. God, I need you to transform my finances, my health. Does it mean that everything is always perfect? No. In fact, so my freshman year, we had a terrible season. If it was Hollywood, we would have won the state title, but we won no state titles, okay, let me tell you. And I never played college. This may surprise you. I never played in the NFL. Our team was terrible. But you know what? We saw a victory. We saw victories. We won a couple of games. No, but I mean, we saw God move and God work when you're willing to step out in faith and walk in transformation. It doesn't mean your life's going to be perfect, but you will have purpose. You will experience freedom. You will have hope. You will have peace as he works in your life, in your heart. If you're new here to Alive, we always give you a next step. Because sure, it's fun to sit in those seats and say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then you walk out of here, you eat some ice cream and some hot dogs, and you forget. We want to give you some next steps. Next steps to think about and pray about. A couple of next steps. Maybe you're here and you've never given your life to Jesus. That's your first step. I don't want you to walk out of here without taking that step. If you've never given your life to Jesus, today is the day. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't say, you know what, I want to, but maybe God's going to ask me to do something scary. Maybe my friends, my neighbors, my family members won't like me anymore. Just say, you know what, God, I am all in for you. I'm giving my heart to you. That is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life. Or maybe you're here and you've taken that step and you walk with Jesus, maybe for a short time, maybe for a long time. But there's an area of your life where you're holding back, and fear is holding you back. Maybe God is calling you to live in extravagant generosity. Maybe God is calling you to serve. Maybe God is calling you to take a bold step of faith for him. And maybe you take a little teeny tiny step, and then you take a step right back, because fear is holding you back. Release that fear. Live in transformation. And that's your next step. Jason's going to talk, I think, about connection cards. You should have gotten one when you walked in, but fill it out. Let us know how we can pray for you, all those things, name, address, and then check one of those 2 boxes. Because we want to pray for you. We want to encourage you. We want to help you on this journey. Because none of us are called to walk this journey alone. Just like when I walked up to that line of scrimmage and dead meat stared me in the eye. I wasn't up there by myself, thankfully. There was like a bunch of other guys, just as fearful as I was, but we had each other's back. And so it's about living in community, trusting him, trusting in his transformation power, knowing that God is bigger. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a series called Masterpiece. I'm so excited for this series. I invite you to come back for that. In fact, Jason's going to tell you how you can get in a group to dig in about that. Here's the thing. We've been working through this book of Joshua, the story of Rahab. Joshua has a book in the New Testament that has a very similar message. It is the book of Ephesians. Ephesians talking about your inheritance. Once you follow God, once you're following Jesus, you get an inheritance. In fact, spoiler alert, when you follow Jesus, God says you are a masterpiece. We're going to dig through what that means, what that looks like, starting in a couple of weeks with our series called Masterpiece. Love for all of you to be back in this room online. Join us as well as we walk through what that means, living that out. God is bigger, and he's calling you to live in radical faith. Will you pray with me? Lord, I just thank you for everybody here. I thank you for everybody watching online. And Lord, I just think about those ones who are following you, but fear is holding them back in an area. You know what that area is. Lord, I pray that they would give that to you, that they would take time to identify it and then to say, God, just take it. God, I surrender my health to you. I surrender my time, my energy, my finances. I surrender my family to you. I want to live in transformation. When we do that, we see him work. Or if you're here and you've never given your life to Jesus, maybe you watched those baptisms and you thought, I want that transformation, but fear is holding you back. I invite you to invite Jesus to come into your heart right now. Just pray this prayer with me. Just say, Lord Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, take away my guilt, my sin, my shame. Jesus, I'm a mess, and I know I can't get to you because none of us can. Jesus, I surrender as I believe you are who you said you are. Jesus, thank you for new life and for the transformation you're doing even now as I give my life to you tonight. Thank you for what you're doing. In Jesus' name, amen.